Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Markiplier is one of those creators where almost everyone knows the name, even if they haven't watched him in years. For over a decade, he's been one of the biggest people on YouTube. He's made gaming videos, movies, series, and even started moving into bigger filmmaking projects. But the thing that makes Markiplier interesting isn't just that he got popular. A lot of people get popular on YouTube. The interesting part is that Mark has been able to completely change what people know him for and still keep the same audience.
Oh, hi. I've got something for you. A rose.
Because if you look back at where he started, it doesn't really make sense. The guy who eventually made interactive movies and worked on films started out as a college student, making videos with a cheap microphone in his room. And the path between those two versions of Mark is actually a lot more interesting than people realize. Before the internet knew him as Markiplier, he was just Mark Fishbog. He grew up in Hawaii before moving to Cincinnati, Ohio, and unlike a lot of creators who always say they wanted to be famous, Mark actually had a pretty normal plan for his life. He went to college for biomedical engineering. The plan was basically what most people are told to do. Get a degree, find a career, build a normal future. You probably wouldn't look at a college engineering student and think, yeah, this guy is going to become one of the biggest YouTubers in the world. But things changed. During college, Mark went through some difficult moments that made him rethink what he wanted. He dealt with personal struggles, health problems, and eventually realized that the path he was on wasn't necessarily the one he wanted to follow.
Hey guys, really sorry to say this, but I've been in the hospital overnight. It's about 4 a.m. right now.
Eventually, Mark started making gaming videos, more specifically horror games. And this is where things started to change, because the reason people watched Mark wasn't really the games. There are thousands of people playing the same games. The difference was how Mark made people feel. He wasn't just playing a horror game and reacting. He made viewers feel like they were sitting there with him. When something scary happened, you felt his reaction. When something funny happened, you laughed with him. The game was almost just the setting. The reason people came back was Mark. But what's important is what happened after, because a lot of creators became known for one thing and then disappear when that thing becomes less popular. Mark didn't. People didn't stay because of Five Nights at Freddy's. They stayed because they liked Mark. And that is probably the biggest reason he lasted as long as he did. The easiest thing for Mark to do would have been to keep making the same videos forever. Keep playing horror games, keep repeating the formula. And honestly, it probably would have worked for a while. But that's not what he did. He kept trying new things. He started making bigger projects. He experimented with storytelling. He moved towards filmmaking.
Tick tock, tick tock. Looks like time is up.
The reason Markiplier has stayed relevant for so long isn't because he found one thing that worked. It's because he never let himself become only one thing. By 2014 and 2015, Markiplier wasn't just another gaming channel anymore. He had become one of the biggest creators on YouTube. And this is usually the point where a lot of creators run into a problem. They find something that works, and then they spend the rest of their career trying to recreate the same moment. It makes sense. If millions of people loved one type of video, why would you stop making it? But the problem is that audiences change. The internet changes. Eventually, the thing that made you famous can become the thing holding you back. And Mark seemed to understand that earlier than most people. At the beginning, most people knew Markiplier as a gaming creator, especially horror gaming. But if you watch closely, you can see that the games were never really the main thing. Mark was always focused on entertainment. The game was just the place where the entertainment happened. That is why his audience followed him from one era to another. When the popular games changed, they stayed. When YouTube's changed, they stayed. Because they weren't only watching for the game, they were watching for him. One of the biggest differences between Markiplier and a lot of creators is the relationship he built with his audience. From the beginning, Mark treated viewers less like numbers and more like actual people. That sounds simple, but it matters. A lot of creators build audiences. Mark built a community. There is a difference. An audience watches your videos, a community feels like they're a part of something. That connection became one of the biggest reasons Mark was able to take risks later in his career. Because when he tried something completely different, people trusted him enough to follow. Something that's always separated Mark from a lot of creators is that he never really hid the difficult parts of his life. He's talked openly about personal struggles, losing people close to him, and the pressure that comes with being one of the biggest creators online. And that honestly became a huge part of why people connected with him. The internet can make creators seem almost impossible to relate to. Millions of subscribers, money, fame, constant attention. But Mark always kept the feeling that there was still a normal person behind the camera. Someone who was figuring things out just like everyone else. In 2019, Markiplier and Ethan Nestor created one of the most unique projects on YouTube, Unis Honest. The idea was simple. The channel would exist for exactly 1 year. After that, it would disappear forever. No re-uploads, no permanent archive, no way to go back. For most creators, this idea would sound insane. Why would you delete millions of views? Why would you remove content that could keep making money? That was exactly the point. Unis Honest wasn't built around trying to maximize numbers. It was built around the idea that things are valuable because they don't last forever. Every video had a countdown, every upload mattered because there was a deadline. And when the year ended, they actually deleted it. The reason Unis Honest worked wasn't because of the videos themselves. It was because everyone watching knew they were experiencing something temporary. For 1 year, everyone involved was part of something that couldn't be repeated. And that idea says a lot about how Mark thinks about creating. He's not only interested in making content, he's interested in making experiences. The interesting thing about Mark's career is that some of his biggest moves happened when he could have easily stayed comfortable. By this point, he already had everything most creators wanted: a massive audience, a successful channel, a career most people would never walk away from. But instead of protecting what he had, he kept experimenting. And that's risky. Because every time you change direction, you risk losing the people who like the old version of you. But Mark had built something stronger than a format. He built trust. For most creators, the goal is to become famous. For Markiplier, fame was never really the end goal. It was the tool, a tool to make bigger things, tell bigger stories, and create things that were impossible when he first started making videos in his room. But his biggest transformation was still ahead, because eventually Markiplier wasn't trying to become the biggest YouTuber anymore. He was trying to become something else entirely. For most people who become famous on YouTube, there comes a point where they have to answer a question. Do you keep doing the thing that made you famous? Or do you risk everything and try something new? For Mark, that question became impossible to ignore, because by this point, he had already done almost everything a gaming creator could do. He built one of the biggest gaming channels in history. He became one of the most recognizable faces on YouTube. He created a community that followed him for years, but he was never just interested in playing games. He was interested in creating. And eventually, YouTube became too small for the ideas he wanted to make. In 2022, Mark released In Space with Markiplier, and this project showed exactly how far his vision had changed. On the surface, it was another interactive YouTube project, but it was much bigger than that. It had sets, costumes, a full story, multiple endings, a huge cast. This wasn't someone sitting at a desk recording a video. This was someone trying to create a movie experience that happened on live on YouTube. And that's the important difference. Mark wasn't trying to copy Hollywood. He wasn't trying to leave YouTube behind. He was trying to prove that the internet could create a different kind of entertainment. Something where the audience wasn't just watching, they were involved. The weird thing about Mark's career is that the more successful he became, the more difficult it became to surprise people. When you're a small creator, almost anything feels new. You can experiment, you can fail, nobody expects much, but when millions of people are watching you, every decision becomes bigger. If you make the same thing, people say you're boring. If you change, people say you've lost what made you popular. Mark's solution was simple. Don't choose. Keep the personality people connected with, but keep changing the format. Eventually, Mark took his biggest step yet. He started making a feature film, Iron Lung. Based on the indie horror game, the movie represented something that would have seemed impossible when Mark uploaded his first videos. A creator who started by recording gameplay in his room was now writing, directing, producing, and starring in a movie. But the most interesting part is that this wasn't some random career change. It actually makes sense when you take a look back at everything before it. The comedy, the storytelling, the interactive projects, the years of entertaining an audience. They were all pieces of the same skill, understanding what makes people want to keep watching. There are thousands of people who became popular on YouTube, but very few have stayed relevant for over a decade. And the reason Markiplier lasted isn't because he found the perfect formula, it's because he never depended on one. The game changed, the platform changed, the audience changed, but the thing people liked about Mark stayed the same. He always made people feel like they were a part of something. When people talk about Mark, they usually talk about numbers, subscribers, views, records, but those numbers don't explain why people stayed with him for so long. The reason is much simpler. People trust him. They trust that when he makes something, he actually cares about it. They trust that he isn't just chasing whatever is popular. They trust that even after all the success, they're still the same person sitting behind the camera. The story of Markiplier isn't really about a guy who played horror games and became famous. That's the easy version. The real story is about someone who kept asking the same question: what can I make next? A lot of creators spend their entire careers trying to protect what they built. Mark spent his career building something new. He went from a college student with a microphone to one of YouTube's biggest personalities, to someone creating movies and experiences beyond the platform where he started. And maybe that's the biggest reason people still care about him. Because after all these years, Mark never felt like someone who reached the top and stopped. He always felt like someone who was still becoming. The internet changes faster than almost anything else. Creators come and go, trends disappear, algorithms change. But the creators who last are usually the ones who understand one thing. People don't stay because of what you make. They stay because of why you make it. And that's why, after more than a decade, Markiplier is still here.
I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye! Bye-bye! In the next video. Bye-bye!